Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video, we are looking at Credo Technology. It is time for another update. And in the case of this stock, I'm looking for a potential expansion of what I've been previously considering based on the latest price action I see from the actual swing low we had within this correction. So I'm doing a readjustment to the point where we are looking at a very incredible opportunity in the case of this stock. And I'm not here to predict whether it will work out or not. But I do have a setup that would imply very clear levels where I can start to heavily question the reliability of the uptrend, where I can potentially look for an early exit if anything goes wrong. Because nobody has a crystal ball, nobody knows whether an opportunity will succeed or not. But identifying the high probability levels that allow you to look for great opportunities is what makes the difference here. So what am I talking about? Well, in the case of this stock, I would be looking for this to have been a very simple 1-2 setup. I still have this on the screen, nothing has really changed. But I am now considering the possibility of an impulse for this stock where this would turn into a series of 1-2 setups. And you may be thinking that, okay, then this must be the wave 3 to the upside. And while it well could, I am rather considering that this would be able to be yet another wave 1 to the upside. This would be able to be my wave 2 correction, and I believe this stock might be showing us soon enough its strongest wave yet. Yes, the actual wave 3 to the upside that would be able to provide record returns. We won't go ahead and label absolutely everything. For the main expectation, I will show you that this as a wave 1 up and a wave 2 down here would imply that the wave 3 would be heading somewhere towards $1,300. The ideal target would in fact sit at the 138.2% extension of the wave 1, and yes, that sits at $1,370. It would generally be expected to reach those levels if it indeed works out as a wave 3. And it might in fact even surpass any of those expectations given the large amount of 1-2 setups we have to consider in the case of this chart. And even internally, within this wave 3 to the upside, I would actually have to consider that this would work out itself into a double 1-2-1-2 setup, where right now we would be on the brink of a major breakout. And the beautiful part about this interpretation, about the structure that we have in the case of this stock, in the case of this movement, is that there aren't many options of what I can really consider this structure to be. Because even if I want to look for maybe a full structure within this move up, this does not work out well into, let's say, a diagonal pattern like an ending diagonal, even a leading diagonal, to have a more substantial top in place within this entire movement as a wave 1. I would be pretty much restricted to looking at this as a potential 1-2 setup, to looking for this to already likely have a bottom within the wave 2, also since we have reached internal levels of support within such an interpretation, and this move up afterwards seems unlikely to be forming a fake out at this point, as it is already starting to trend above the wave 1 swing high. This is not typical of a fake out, and I'm not saying this is not a possibility. But the closest alternative, where we wouldn't be in the very early stages of such a wave 3, would be a scenario where most of the time I would expect a significantly larger correction. So at this point, I do not even really care about the area of support I have in place for such a wave 2 correction. I would most likely expect this to be done, so I instead would be looking within an even smaller time frame and try to identify an initial 5V move to the upside within this structure. So within this internal movement, I am looking at this to be the wave 2 bottom. From this low, since we cannot reliably track an impulse, I have to consider the strong possibility of this building a leading diagonal. And we actually have a few options here. I could look at this to have been the wave 1 up, the wave 2 down, and then the wave 3 would have extended all the way up here. Another scenario I could consider for this diagonal pattern would be having a wave 1 that would have topped here, and then this would have still been my wave 2, and I would have here a wave 3 complete. Well, it's not exactly ideal. It wouldn't have reached the ideal target for the wave 3 in such an interpretation. In fact, it's quite unsatisfying, but I wouldn't actually get stuck on those details. I believe it is possible for the wave 3 itself to extend even further. I believe it is possible for the wave 4 to be already in formation, and once we have the next high within the wave 5, we can start looking for the next 1-2 setup, which could mark the beginning of a very explosive breakout. So as a recap, for this stock, the structure that has been built by the market in this feisty price action doesn't fit too well within many interpretations. I do find there to be a very good chance of this building a very bullish pattern where we would still be in very early stages, but the potential is enormous. And I do know that if this setup isn't going to materialize, I would most likely have to expect a broader failure for the entire structure. I do not really believe we could reliably expect a wave 2 to still be happening from the larger time frame perspective. I wouldn't be able to actually look for a reset of this structure and without a confirmation really for any position here. Now, what I'm actually looking at is an opportunity even today, because even though it hasn't built the entire 5-wave pattern up, I believe we can track internal levels of support for a potential wave 4 as within this structure. In the actual wave 4, I believe there is a good chance we will form a deeper retracement than we will within the large degree wave 2, considering the amount of 1-2 setups it would have to build. By the point we have this as another wave 1 complete, we might not even reach the levels of support in a follow-up wave 2 correction before we see extremely strong price action from the wave 3. And the other positive part about this is that if it cannot build the wave 4 and the wave 5, I would find a failure of this entire setup, of this entire structure, to be more likely than for it to still recover in a success. So, in terms of support, in the interpretation where the wave 1 would have topped somewhere here, it might not be the peak, it could have been an internal overshoot, let's not overthink that. But in this scenario, the area of support for the wave 4 would extend down to $231, where so far we would have reached the 38.2% retracement, which is the ideal target for the wave 4, but I wouldn't be convinced that it is complete. I would probably prefer for this to build something like an A, B, C pattern, in which case the ideal target for the wave C would be the 100% extension of the wave A, which is actually perfectly in line with the 61.8% retracement just below that. Then, if I wanted to allow an even deeper area of support, I can return to the scenario where the wave 1 would have topped here, this would have been my wave 2 bottom, and I would be looking for the support to extend as low as $226. So we can actually allow it to retrace to an even deeper level before considering a broader invalidation of this setup. Now, to be honest, especially in the case of diagonal structures, specifically in the case of a wave 4, I do tend to prefer allowing a much deeper retracement. It does happen at times that within the wave 4 of a diagonal pattern, the correction could even weak into the 78.6% retracement itself, which in the case of this setup, it's sitting at $215.60. Now, this is not to tell you what to do. In fact, whether you even continue to track this stock is entirely up to you, and I do recommend to do your own research on this and really any opportunity you are considering, because this is your money. If you want more from me, you can check out the Patreon, but for now, these are the levels, this is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and if you enjoyed the content and want to support it directly, check out the channel membership, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.